Greetings, everyone. Happy Monday, September 16th. We are through non-conference play already here with Michigan football, the Wolverine.com podcast here. Anthony Broom with Clayton Safety. Chris Ballas will be hopping on in a few moments. And a lot to talk about this week. Obviously, a big game with USC coming up on Saturday, and it will come with a quarterback change. Michigan is turning the page from Davis Warren to Alex Orji. Not super surprising. We all watched what happened Saturday. I think it was, we'll talk about the move and what led to that, and maybe why this early in the week Sherrone Moore makes that decision here in a little bit. But Clayton, welcome back. It's hard to believe, we wait all year for the season to come, and then we're already 25% of the way through the regular season. So, yeah, it's been kind of a breakneck few weeks here.
2 bye weeks, though. So in terms of actual time, it's not quite 25%. But, yeah, it goes quick, man. It's too bad. But very, very excited for a big game this weekend. This is as big as it gets in September in college football. So it's going to be awesome.
I was trying to think, when's the last time that Michigan has played? And I know the Big Ten looks very different than it did, when you and I are growing up and the way that people are used to it. But have they ever played a game with this type of stakes to it this early in September? I mean, I guess it's kind of relative, but this feels like as big of a conference opener that we've seen them play. Usually it's like a Maryland or Rutgers has been a few of them. And I think they used to open with Indiana now and then, but USC's first game in the Big Ten, they come out to Ann Arbor. This is it's exciting. I ran into a couple on Saturday that had very nice things to say about the show, and the husband was a Michigan fan, the wife was a USC fan, and they were super excited for this weekend. So, yeah, this is first time ever this matchup at the Big House. Of course, they've played in the Rose Bowl plenty of times, but here we go. I mean, Texas feels simultaneously like it was last week and also a month ago, but we talked about all offseason how every 2 weeks or so is kind of a chance for a signature game or a showdown type of game, and we're at showdown number 2 of the year.
We are. And they have played once in the Big House, though. 1958 was the last time, once in the Coliseum or wherever USC played in 1957. And then everything else has been postseason, Rose Bowl. So we saw it with Texas a couple weeks ago, where these matchups that you just don't see occur happen. And those colors clash. This one, especially in this location for Michigan, USC, is going to be really fun. As far as the stakes, I mean, it's interesting because Michigan already has a loss. So it is kind of similar to some other situations because they kind of have a loss to play with. I guess you could argue they could lose 2 and still get in the playoff, but, they're not thinking, or I mean, maybe the team is, but you can't think playoff right now if you're watching this from the outside. Michigan's got to win a big game, show that they can beat good teams and then kind of move on from there. I think that if they win this game, though, they're going to be favored in every game until Oregon in early November, and then who knows, right? So this win, if Michigan could get it as a touchdown underdog at home, would open up a whole world of possibilities, but it's going to be a big, big challenge.
Yeah, and look at what USC gets right out of the gate here. They go to Michigan this weekend. They'll play with Wisconsin. They go to Minnesota at Penn State. Maryland and Rutgers are not gimmies for them. Kind of a nice little meat and potatoes Big Ten slate for the Trojans to start the year. But we'll talk about that matchup in depth a little later this week when we do our Thursday show. We will talk Alex Orji as the new starting quarterback. We'll also discuss Sherrone Moore's Monday press conference. And like we do every single week. Sorry, I heard it myself in my headphones for a second there. We'll take your questions to end the show. Before we do that, I want to talk about our friends over at HomeField Apparel. Listen, you guys have heard me, I feel like for 5-6 years at this point, talking about our friends over at HomeField. It's some of the best vintage collegiate stuff you can get. I'm on their page right now, their Michigan collection. I mean, there's 71 products in there. And I'm looking at hoodies. I'm looking at crew neck sweatshirts. They've got bomber jackets. They've got, the regular T-shirts. They've got, the subscription boxes that they've been rolling out with. So looks like it's going to be a hot one this weekend. Maybe you're looking for more of a t-shirt vibe, if you're heading out to the game, we got some cold weather games coming up too. Of course, they always are when you're playing in Big Ten countries. So get the joggers, get the sweatpants, get the hoodies. It's all there for you. Use that promo code Wolverine for 15% off your first order over at HomeFieldApparel.com. There's a lot of national championship stuff still there as well. A couple Houston specific designs. There's a long sleeve shirt in there that I have at home that it's kind of got the little space vibe with Houston and 2023 national champions with the Michigan helmet on there. So it's all great stuff. It's as comfortable as anything I own. It's as cool as anything I own. I would love. Listen, I mean, they do a great job with college sports. I know they're, for you NASCAR people, they've got a NASCAR collection out there as well. A lot of cool stuff there. And if you're not a Michigan person or you need to get something for someone in your life who's not a Michigan fan, use that promo code Wolverine and get the Slippery Rock stuff, get the Eastern Michigan stuff, get the Central Michigan stuff. It's all there. So use that promo code Wolverine for 15% off your first order over at HomeFieldApparel.com. All right, well, the elephant in the room today is the quarterback situation. We all watched what happened Saturday with Davis Warren throwing an interception in each of the first three quarters. His only 3 incompletions of the day, but interceptions 4, 5, and 6 on the season gave way to what appears to be now the start of the Alex Orji era, at least for 1 week here. Again, we like to talk about no man knows the future as Chris Ballas joins us to talk about the QB situation. We'll get into that here in a moment, but kind of surprised, like maybe not surprising, because Sherrone Moore's not really a guy that minces words or, sometimes he'll be a little cryptic with stuff. But right off the bat this week, Alex Orji is the starting quarterback for this game on Saturday. I guess we'll just throw it around the room first. I mean, your thoughts on the decision and naming it this early in the week?
I think the decision is fine. I mean, you got to hold guys accountable, right? That's what they always talk about, is holding guys accountable. You can't have 6 interceptions, and I understand that 2 or 3 were not on him, whatever. The ones that were terrible, right? You just can't have those mistakes. And I would love it, no matter who's behind center, if the guys around them would step up and do their jobs to make it easier on these guys, so that Davis Warren's not throwing off his back foot, or, everybody's yelling about Alex Orji for not finding holes on those 3rd downs against Texas, when a pulling guard just needs to block one guy and Alex Orji's getting the first down. So that's where it really starts, is the guys around these guys have got to be better and who we expected them to be. And they just have not been. So that's where it starts to me. Everybody's like, well, do you temper expectations? Well, yeah, because this is the guy who lost out to Davis Warren, who may have thrown some good passes. He had 11 completions, and he looks like he's, starting to get into a little bit of a rhythm, but hasn't played enough football, clearly, to not panic when things go badly. And hopefully Alex Orji will. So it's about ball protection. And that's the reason they said coming out of camp, not just the completions, but the ball protection was one of the reasons that Davis Warren won the job. And if it doesn't translate, then you go with another guy. So I think we're all excited and hopeful that Alex Orji will be a gamer and will live up to expectations here, or not expectations, because expectations aren't very high, right? But exceed expectations here and be a better option, because they're going to have to score some points, fellas, to beat USC.
I was surprised that they named him the starter publicly, but after Saturday, I figured that Alex Orji would be the guy to start off against USC. It was funny because after the game, Sherrone Moore said that we'll have to see how practice goes, but then which is totally fine. He changed his mind, or at least maybe wasn't giving everything right after the game in terms of what he was going to do with this decision. But when you think of it, if you use practice to determine how this goes, it's probably Davis Warren again. And practice doesn't seem like it's been the issue. It's been a few decisions in games that you just can't have. So if you're going to play this style of football where you want to possess the ball and, play bend, don't break defense and make the opponent make mistakes, you can't turn the ball over on 7 of 28 Davis Warren led drives, which is what Michigan did. I mean, that's bad in college basketball, let alone football. No college basketball team last year turned it over on that many percentage of their drives. But if you're doing it in football, on a team that doesn't have that many big plays, they're not that explosive offensively right now, and you're turning it over, it's a terrible combination. So he kind of had no choice. But now, is this does it mean just because you're going to something else, does it mean it's a great option? We don't know. And Michigan fans are hoping that Alex Orji and kind of a new look offense will be the answer. But, he opens up possibilities in the run game for Michigan, maybe limits what they can do in the pass game. But if he takes care of the ball and they can make some plays and play good defense, they're going to have a shot this weekend.
Yeah, to me, I mean, it all goes back to playing complementary football. And if you're going to be a team that wants to run the ball a lot, and Donovan Edwards, Kalel Mullings are going to shoulder this thing, and your pass attempts are limited, you can't turn over the ball the way that Davis Warren has. And we talked about this a little bit in the press box on Saturday. Like, to a certain extent, it reminded me of when John O'Korn struggled in that game against Rutgers in 2017. And I know we're cringing at any mentions of the 2017 season, but at a certain point, it just kind of becomes clear you have to change something. What's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting something else to happen. 6 picks is too many. JJ McCarthy threw 4 picks all of last season. We've seen, that and then some in the first few weeks here. I
will say he had 3 of them against Bowling Green, against a terrible team. And so about what, 3, what do you have, 4 before the Big Ten season started or something? And then he was fantastic. So, but he's not Davis Warren's not JJ McCarthy. So to expect him to continue, I expect him to improve, but to be JJ McCarthy level, absolutely not. So you really
no, yeah. And I wasn't saying that either. It's just more like that's the 180 of taking care of the football. Like, if it was just a game where you vomit all your mistakes at once and then you bounce back from it, it's one thing. But it's been a concerning pattern for an offense. It's, really struggled with the attention to detail type of things. And, really it comes down to this. If Alex Orji goes out there on Saturday and looks really good and they beat USC, people are going to question this coaching staff and if it was the right move to go the way they did in the first place. And my reply to that would be, who cares? Just win football games. I don't know that a quarterback change before or during the Texas game changes how that game goes. That was right now, the AP poll says that's the best team in college football, and my eyeballs tend to say that as well. So, yeah, I mean, you fundamentally now are kind of changing what your offense is going to look like. And no, do I expect them to be a service academy where they throw the ball 2 or 3 times an entire game? No. But they're going to have to be a lot more creative with what they do for this because, as we've seen, we haven't seen them throw the ball a ton. And I'll go back to this too. I don't have an issue with them naming him the starter this week because if you're going to go this route, he needs to get first team reps every single time out there this week. You need to craft a game plan around what he does well. But it's going to have to be super creative. It's going to have to be, the design QB runs and the read option. You can't just plug the square peg into a round hole. And now you're asking him to make some of the throws that you were asking Davis Warren to make. It's just inherently going to look a little bit different. So, I mean, I guess I'll throw the ball back to you guys. I mean, what do we expect this offense to look like now with him out there?
Is it realistic to expect him to throw the ball a ton? Because, I mean, they wouldn't let him throw the ball last year, and he hasn't thrown much when he's been in the game this year. When he has, he's misfired, and everybody's like, well, we don't know if he can throw. Well, we kind of do, right? Unless maybe all of a sudden, boom, he puts a Superman cape on and improves dramatically here. They don't trust him to throw the ball. And I don't think that's unfair to say that. So at the same time, again, there are things that he can do that no other quarterback on the team can. And hopefully, they put him in positions to succeed. And what I mean by that clearly is not triple option. You can't just go ahead and scrap your entire offense and put in a triple option and everything else. As some people said, hey, do you think they have a completely new offense for him? No, they have different packages for him, but it can't be as predictable as it's been. And I think we need to see more read option. I think we need to see more old school Rich Rodriguez, right, with Pat White and guys like that, or with the Denard Robinson types, right, where you can do some RPOs if he's able to do that. But to me, I always come back to, if he was able to do that and they were able to do that successfully, then they would have done it in practice and he would have been easily the starter on this football team. So that's what concerns me. But you know what? Game reps are what's important, and he's going to get a lot of them. But to say that, okay, this is all of a sudden it's Alex Orji's team, I don't think that's the case. I think we're going to see these guys kind of going back and forth this year based on who the hot hand might be, or if they need a kick in the pants on offense, you might have to go to another guy. Somebody asked if Jack Tuttle is still on the team. He's been hurt. We've been saying that since fall. Otherwise, he might be the quarterback on this team. He probably would be the quarterback on this team, guys, flat out. So it sucks, but you're here and you support the guy who's there. I think the team is excited about this as well, and excited for Alex because they love him. He's a great teammate and a great kid. Hope he kills it, fellas. It would be a lot of fun to see a quarterback like him, that big, that strong, that fast, really have success here.
I think this is crazy to say because Jack Tuttle got his waiver in January for his 7th year of eligibility, but I think they were banking on Jack Tuttle, pretty much, unless one of the other guys emerged, and doesn't seem like one of them emerged to the level of being a high level player. I mean, Davis Warren needs experience. You were hoping he could get that here while you go through the growing pains and the losses don't mount, but he didn't even give himself the opportunity to get to the Big Ten season with this. And then Alex Orji, we'll see. I do think the offense is going to look significantly different, kind of like how it did in the drives that he was in on. 3rd and 4, you run, and he had a great 13-yard rush for the first down pickup. The 9-play, 80-yard touchdown drive, it was 8 runs, and then a pretty easy pass out to Hogan Hansen. So it's going to be running the ball. When you do get in 3rd and medium, it's probably a run is on the table. So that can stress the defense in that way. But when it is a pass, you got to be able to complete it. I think they'll be able to move the ball a little bit and run for some first downs. But when it gets to 3rd and 8, what are they going to be able to do? The jury's still out on what Alex Orji can do in that regard. But he's electric when he's running the football, and it opens up more for Kalel Mullings and Donovan Edwards too. It changes the math in the run game. So it just may work, which would be great, just in time for USC. But it's almost too bad that they didn't have, a different game this weekend. I know you can't change the schedule, but, just to get this down before you play a big game. But they don't have that luxury. At the same time, USC doesn't know exactly what to expect, and they're going to have to prepare for quite a lot. So it kind of works both ways. But it's going to be fascinating and just a huge, huge game.
Yeah, and it's a situation too where, I know one of the gripes against naming a starter this early was, now USC knows to prepare for it. Do they know what to prepare for? We've seen this guy throw the ball, 5 times total in his career. I think for Michigan, this has a chance to be as successful as they are, as weird as they are willing to get with it, is going to determine how successful this is. Now, again, I think some people will argue if the best version of this football team is, this power spread type of offense that you'd like to run, why didn't Michigan just go all in on that? Well, I mean, I don't know that. We're not in the room during spring ball. We don't know, what exactly their vision for this team was going to be. But I do think it has a chance to work. I think that we've seen it. College football is so. I think everyone kind of puts themselves in a box and think about, do you have an NFL quarterback? Do you have a guy that's going to make all these throws and know where to go on the route tree to all these guys? And I think you can get weird in college football and have it work. We've seen it work before at Michigan. Again, that didn't come with a lot of wins back in that era, but this can work if they're patient about it, if they're smart about it. A lot of that's on Alex Orji too. I think they're going to try and scheme up a lot of easy type of, again, the deep ball from Saturday. That's got to be a layup for him, right? That's a shot that with this look, I think defenses will give you stuff like that. You got to convert him. It's like when you leave, a bad 3-point shooter open out on the arc. At some point, if that's going to be dangerous, you got to knock down some of those shots. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I just think with him, it's reps. And I don't know exactly what happened in fall camp, but you just hope that they didn't squander an opportunity, against a Fresno State, against an Arkansas State, where you really could have gotten this guy some legitimate reps and put some stuff on film to improve upon. Because, basically it's it's a new season that starts now. I think that with the 12-team playoff, obviously there's some grace that you'll get from that Texas game, but the real season starts now. It's another showdown game. And that's just, we'll see what Sherrone Moore and Kirk Campbell and Grant Newsome as well are kind of made of. I think those are the guys that kind of need to get everything in line for this to work. So,
yeah. And I think Squander is a little bit, clearly Davis Warren was the better quarterback in the last week of camp, and everybody said it. Even the Alex Orji fans that really, really wanted him to be the quarterback, Davis Warren took that job. He had a great week of practice. It hasn't translated to the game, so I can't kick these guys in the butt and say, man, you guys really screwed up by playing the guy that was moving but at some point, 3 games is plenty, like you said, AB, to know that if it's not translating, then you have to do something else. Otherwise you're insane. So it was interesting. I brought that up. Imagine if Alan Bowman was still on this team. I wonder if they kicked the tires on him. You know what? There's a guy who's familiar with everybody in the room, right? You look at him and he had some success last year, and you say, hey, do you want to come home? Everybody's still here and you're going to have a great opportunity here to compete for the job. But so for all the talk here that there was no other option in the portal and it was too late and so on and so forth, this is something that, even though they were scheming for a national championship and that's where all of their attention needed to be, you have to have somebody in that room, maybe back channeling for a quarterback, because how many of us called this, fellas, saying that this could be one of the biggest issues hindering this team in 2024?
Well,
it's tough when you don't know what JJ is going to do, though.
Well, they kind of knew what he was going to do. You know what? I think they did. In fact, as early as December, they had a pretty good idea, and I think they were, hopeful. But once he won the Natty, and you know what, once they got to the playoffs again, and once his draft grade kept going up, I think it was kind of a foregone conclusion. But regardless, they should have had somebody better, flat out. Whether it's recruiting, whether it's portal, you do everything you can so that you don't take a huge step backward.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's when you look at who you're courting, though, if they don't know what JJ McCarthy is going to do, then it makes it tough. And then you have a coaching change, and no one really good was available in the spring. So it's too bad Jack Tuttle's hurt. It's too bad that Davis Warren, didn't make the most of his opportunity, because really, if you look at Saturday, he made 11 pretty good throws. I mean, the one to Marlon Klein up the seam on the free play was great. The ones to Fred Moore along the sideline were fantastic. But these big mistakes outweighed all the good things he did. Now, he didn't do any great things in any of the 3 games, so that limited him. But the mistakes were just massive, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's the guy at some point later this year. Just like I'm not shocked they had to go to Alex Orji at some point, and who knows if Jack Tuttle will get healthy enough and get his shot. So feels like it's going to be ongoing throughout the year. But as Sherrone Moore said today, he kind of dodged the question about going back and forth and what that would say about the team and all that, which I thought was smart, because he's not going back and forth. So far, there's been one change, and let's go. Let's see what he can do.
Would it surprise either of you if we saw Davis Warren in the second half of Saturday's game?
I'm not surprised by much.
I don't know that I'd be surprised by anything at this point. And I guess that's the question I was going to ask when I came back around this way was, is this the last quarterback change they'll make this year? And I kind of lean no.
I agree. And that's why I said they're going to need both of them. And maybe it's the guy who has the hot hand and is playing better one week. And if a guy's struggling for 2.5 quarters of a game, remember Joe Milton against Rutgers, and then you finally bring in Cade McNamara and he gives you a spark, that doesn't mean that he's your quarterback. Remember the game that John O'Korn had against Purdue, right? And everybody thought, oh, Michigan found their quarterback. And then John O'Korned and kind of became the guy that we all kind of suspected he was. So they're going to need more than one guy, in my opinion. Hopefully not. Frankly, I hope it's Alex Orji just takes this thing and runs with it and proves too good to replace. I don't know that I expect that, but I certainly would love to see it, because, again, this kid is a physical specimen, and if he can put it all together, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, my final thought on it would be, this is maybe the biggest test for Kirk Campbell yet within this Michigan program. We talked to him at the Rose Bowl, straight up asked him, is JJ McCarthy's successor on the roster right now? And he said it was. He said he had a lot of confidence in the guys that they had. And I think that the action or inaction that they took on the transfer portal front, or in terms of adding a guy, those were moves done with a lot of conviction, with Sherrone Moore in on that decision, Kurt Campbell in on that decision. So what happens from here, again, people want to point to Matt Weiss. People want to blame Jim Harbaugh for the way that things were left. I mean, those two guys had a big hand to play in it. And now they have the biggest hand in where it goes next. So I'm going to be really interested in seeing where it goes from here. Any other notes or takeaways from Sherrone's Monday presser? I know he said the center job is going to kind of keep going into this week. Jadis slightly graded out above, but they liked some of the big plays that Greg Crippen had. Doesn't seem like there's any other changes coming in terms of right tackle or offensive line. Just curious if you guys, anything else stood out from this.
One thing that Clay, you guys can improve, right? I mean, I'm not ready to write Davis Warren off completely because of some of the throws that Clay was talking about. I went back and watched the film, were fantastic throws. There's all this shit about, he doesn't have an arm and, so on and so forth. And he only locks on to one guy. And that's been disproven. He can make some of the throws, and the more he plays, maybe the better he gets. And I understand that part of this is other than the assassination, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln, right? Because those mistakes were terrible. But that doesn't mean that he can't improve and be serviceable. I remember Demetrius Brown, guys, in 1987, had 7 interceptions against Michigan State and ended up winning Michigan a Rose Bowl the next year when Michael Taylor got hurt. So all these people that are saying, he just sucks and he will never get better, so on and so forth. This kid has started 7 football games in his entire life. There's just no reason that he can improve. And I hope he does. And I hope Alex Orji does. But to write either one of them off at this point, I think is premature. Do I think either one of them is going to be an elite or a really good starting quarterback in the Big Ten? No. Can they be serviceable? I absolutely think so.
Who was the offensive coordinator for the Demetrius Brown 7 picks game? He just kept dialing them up.
It was crazy. They couldn't run the ball at Michigan State. Yeah. And it might've been Jerry Hanlon back then, as a matter of fact, but they just had no chance because they couldn't run the ball. And that Michigan State team was roided up top to bottom. So they're really, really strong.
Who says Bo doesn't pass? But
yeah, well, unfortunately, they only lost 17-11. That's the crazy part about it. If one of those picks doesn't happen, they could still probably win that game. So, but we'll see. And again, guys, everybody talks about the 6 interceptions. One of them flat out was not on him. The pass where Colston Loveland ran the wrong route. Another one, his arm got hit. So that's 2. I'm not making excuses for this kid, but it's not like every interception was as bad as the 2 that he threw on Saturday. And it's not like he's played a ton of football. He can improve. I'm not saying that he's good enough to be the starting quarterback at Michigan or going to be great at Michigan. I'm just saying he can be better than he's shown. It wouldn't stun me.
I was talking to my dad about that the other day, about how he may be the least experienced quarterback in the country, and he has 3 games in college under his belt. Most quarterbacks haven't started a game in college, but they've played a ton in high school and everything. So experience is huge. And give the guy credit. I mean, he tried coming back. The story about him drinking papaya juice so he could get his whatever level back up, after chemo to get cleared to play. I mean, he tried. He's done everything he could. So I love that kid. I'm rooting for him if he gets his shot again, obviously. And you need a good backup too. So hopefully he can improve behind the scenes in the meantime as well. Certainly this valuable experience, but other things from the press conference, O-line is interesting. He did say competition will continue at every position. He's kind of said that every week. We haven't seen any other changes outside of center. No update on Colston Loveland. That is kind of the big one that, maybe the news is being overshadowed by the Alex Orji being named the starter. But Colston Loveland's status is so big for this game in terms of the shot Michigan's going to have, because he's been so good this year that people are complaining about how good he is because he's the only one that can do anything, right? And of course the other guys need to step up, but he's been that good. Yeah. He is really he's taken a huge, huge step. And I wish, that was something we could have been able to talk about more over the last few weeks, but obviously there's been a lot to get to. So that is going to be major, major, major. We'll be watching him in warmups all afternoon there on Saturday. Hopefully watching him on warmups, but watching to see if he's out there.
Yeah, I mean, you hope to watch him in warmups at all, right? So, nothing else really stood out to me. I mean, again, they talked to a couple players today: Makari Page, Donovan Edwards. we broke the news to them that Alex Orji was the starting quarterback. Of course, on Mondays, they don't typically meet for the first time that week until after Sherrone Moore's press conference. So got a couple of in-the-moment reactions from Makari Page and Donovan Edwards, who more or less just said they're excited. And Donovan Edwards specifically said that, whoever steps into that huddle when it's time to call a play, everyone shuts up and listens because they respect both of those guys. So I don't think there are any factions on this team with the quarterback situation. I think that these guys just want to move forward. They want to put that Texas game behind them. They want to get off to a good start in Big Ten play. Lest we forget, it's a 3-time defending Big Ten champion going for a 4th straight this year. And it's not looking promising on that front, but these guys have a lot of pride. They're ready to get out there and ready to play a USC team that, again, has looked better through 2 weeks. But we've seen that program get out-physicaled quite a bit. And Lincoln Riley teams in general get out-physical during his coaching career at Oklahoma and USC. So big opportunity for those guys heading into this week.
You know what's crazy? It completely slipped my mind that this was the Big Ten opener because it's USC. That is so stupid. It's just crazy to me. But hey, it'll be fun. I think the atmosphere will be great. This is the pivotal moment of this season. To me, you play well and win this game. You win this game, I think it goes in one direction. You lose this game, I think it could get ugly, fellas. I really do. So I think a lot of these guys appear to me, and I know it's cliche, but appear to me a little bit fat and happy about what happened last year. I'm not seeing the same amount of fire. And, it's funny because my dad says this all the time. I'm like, how can you tell? But there's something seems to be missing. So I think this is the game that could get him back on the right track. Am I predicting it? No, but it sure would be nice to see and get everybody jacked up here for the rest of the season.
I think it's fair to say losing the leaders they did. I mean, the Chris Jenkins of the world who brings the energy on a daily basis, and your coaches, right? I mean, Jim Harbaugh and all these guys, Clink, and I mean, they had some guys that would get you going. They still do. Donovan Edwards brings the energy, guys like that. But it's just a different mix, and they're trying to find themselves. And it's easier to find yourself in what your identity is going to be as a team and your mentality and everything when things are going a little bit better, I think. But it is kind of crazy that a game is has these types of stakes this early on because you could play around with a loss maybe early on in some of these other years, but when I think about, some of these other games like 2019 Penn State, that was basically an elimination game. They lose it. 2021 Penn State was basically an elimination game. They win it, and then they go on and beat Ohio State and make the playoffs. So you're not totally out of it with a loss here, but it's that big right away. And stripe out, by the way, over at. So get your home field gear, get the proper section. It's even is blue. If you're in an odd section, you're wearing maize. So get your home field gear. Use the promo code Wolverine over there to make sure you're good to go. But it's going to be a great atmosphere.
What are we supposed to wear in the box, fellas?
That's a great
neutral colors.
We got to figure that out.
Millennial gray,
because we are unbiased journalists. Gotcha.
So Borton will wear blue. You wear maize.
Okay.
I'll wear blue. Anthony's in maize because we go every other there. So
there you go.
Right,
there we go. I want to shout out John Borden for a second. Monday press conference today. Also, his chat with Ward Manuel took place this afternoon. That'll be in our next magazine. Always look forward to that. Looked like John brought out the Wolverine polo from like 1986 or something like that.
That might have been from 1957. The way it was stitched. Yeah, and with the moths, the holes in it, I think those were from moths. But you know what? It was from like 1990 something. I guarantee it. So it was hilarious. That's John Borden. That's what Johnny does.
I love the Wolverine stitching in it. It's just in like Times New Roman font. Like it reminds me of The Office. It is your birthday,
right?
So.
That's exactly right.
It's too warm for the sweaters right now, so we're going polos.
It is. It's a little. You know what? I'll just say it. It's a little too warm for mid-September right now. I'm ready for soup season.
I'm wearing shorts in the press box, and I don't care what they say. 82.
Well,
I'm following the Clayton Safety credo there. If it's over 80, I'm wearing shorts in the press box.
Yep,
that's fair. I think I was thinking of kind of steering us into like a non-conference wrap up, but I feel like we kind of went sort of all encompassing there. just to piggyback off what you said about something missing, I don't want to directly call out player leadership or anything like that, but some of the defining traits of these last few Michigan teams have, your star players lifted people up and dragged look at Aiden Hutchinson. Shout out Aiden Hutchinson, 5 sacks in the game. Damn near dragged the Detroit Lions across the finish line yesterday. Guys like that like made damn sure that mistakes weren't repeated and that they were a rising tide that lifted everyone up. I don't see that with Michigan's stars right now. I see a lot of guys out there just kind of doing their thing. And again, I'm not calling out who's a captain, who's not, but like your 4 captains, Donovan Edwards, Makari Page, are they making guys around them better? Are they making this team better? Is Max Bredesen doing all he can do? Rod Moore really can't do much or, other than be a coach on the sidelines. I just, the coaching staff has to be better, but like you said, Chris, I think we are seeing a bit of guys falling in love with their own stuff. And, I don't know if a game like this weekend unlocks another gear out of them. Really, when you think about these last few Michigan teams, it's really kind of been week 4, 5, maybe. I mean, this year you don't make your first road trip until week 6, where I feel like after they play their first road game the last few years, we've kind of learned about who this team is. I think we're going to know much sooner than when they go to Washington, what this team is made of. But these next few weeks are going to be so telling for what direction this is headed. I think you're totally spot on with that.
Yeah, and somebody, what I was just going to say, and JC over here says the same thing. The loss of Rod Moore hurts in so many ways. We knew it was going to hurt on the field. There's no way around that, right? And they said, well, I think everybody was saying, well, we got the depth and so on and so forth. You didn't have a Rod Moore, but who he was as a leader, everybody loved him, right? And on the field, he was that quarterback out there. Makari Page, and one of the reasons I wasn't sure he was going to be a captain is because he's so soft-spoken. He's not Rod Moore, and Rod Moore was special in that respect. So you are really, really missing that leadership out there right now. I can't point to one guy and say, this is the guy that really is getting the job done as a leader of the defense. And that needs to change, fellas. That has to somehow. I don't care if it's Mason Graham. I don't care if it's Kenneth Grant. Sometimes it seems like a few of these guys are going through the motions, and I hate to say that because these are champions. And the championship DNA is something that we harped on all off season. The culture's there. We don't have to worry about that. Well, guess what? Now it's already a huge concern, and one of the bigger concerns on this team. I think losing Ben Herbert in that respect was absolutely huge. What he brought in terms of what he brought in the weight room, not just as a strength coach, but as a leader, I think something that's missing as well. No disrespect for the guys who replace him, but that was certainly a downgrade. So anyway, there's no question about that. And I love Rod Moore. Hopefully, maybe we'll see him in a Michigan uniform next year, fellas. Who knows? But we'll talk about that when the time comes.
It's possible. I'll just say this: it's too bad that so many of the good things. I know Arkansas State's not good, but Michigan did a lot of good things on Saturday, and they did what they said they wanted to do in the run game. I mean, just the second 300+ yard rushing game in the last 2 years since they changed the clock rule. It's really hard to do at this point. The 14th time of 300+ yards in the last 10 years. So it happens just over a time a year, but even less so. Now that they have this clock rule, that's an impressive feat. I know Arkansas State has a terrible run defense. They let Central Arkansas run for 250, but they got the run game going. The defense was pretty good. They allowed 3 points, could have been 9, if there weren't a couple doinks in there, but they responded. They looked better, against a team that does have some firepower offensively, but nowhere near what they're going to see here in the future. So it's all adjusted for opponent, but you did some good things. It was the turnovers in the backup defense that screwed it all up, right? And now you have a completely different looking team here going into next week. But who knows? It's on Alex Orji and the rest of the guys to step up here as they start Big Ten play. But you just hope that with the talent they do have still, they can make strides as this year goes on.
They absolutely can. Again, we're a Davis Warren interception on the Arkansas State 41-yard line away from that either being a 24-3 game at the half, maybe 28-3 at the half. And that one, I know that wasn't his fault, but that one may be the most consequential in terms of how we come out of that game feeling. And obviously, not really, I wrote this yesterday, not really going to freak out about the backups giving up 15 points late in the game. I mean, you had third, fourth string guys out there, and some of those guys might need to play at some point. But other than that, I thought they more or less got done what they needed to get done in this non-conference finale. Really quick, we'll get into questions here. I just want to go around the room. I mean,
let me ask real quick. Go ahead. All three of those interceptions first and 10 plays, by the way? I believe they were.
Have to look.
That sounds right.
Which is,
that's they all three were.
Right. So you want to talk about momentum killers. They were moving the ball. The one, and guys have got to do a better job. I don't care who's back there. You can't let your quarterback's arm get hit. You got to block the right guys. You can't have three guys coming unimpeded to the quarterback, with one of them being Donovan Edwards, your senior freaking captain. Do your jobs. Make it easier for these guys. My bads don't count at this level. And Donovan Edwards, to his credit, he said, that was my fault. No, it really wasn't, because Davis Warren should have eaten that ball.
Yes.
But at the same time, do your job. Make it easier on these guys. You are a senior captain on this team, and that is not acceptable. My bads do not count at this level.
In the third one, Omarion Walker falls down.
Right.
Then his guy is able to come off of him and be sitting right there. Again, that was completely on Davis Warren. That was the worst one.
Terrible throw
of the day, maybe the first one, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too. I thought the second one was on him. Don't get your arm hit. Feel the pressure better. That your right tackle. I mean, getting your arm hit. Okay, well, so we just leave it up to chance every single throw? No, you got to feel the pressure better. He felt it a little bit. That's why he climbed in the pocket, but that was on him as well. They all three were. But it doesn't mean that some things could have gone another way. But all three definitely on him.
Yeah, I think it was on the right tackle, and he's got to be better. It blows my mind that they don't have anybody better than that. And I say this going back to the Rich Rodriguez era, with all due respect to Link, who I think couldn't be a good lineman here. He's not ready to play over there, and the fact that they don't have anybody better than that is frankly on them as well.
I can't disagree. I was kind of surprised looking through PFF grades after the game that they graded out as highly as they did pass blocking, because I come out of the non-conference feeling less confident about them as pass blockers than run blockers. Saw some strides in the run game, obviously, but man, oh man, they've got some issues there. And I think the fact that, I could be wrong, Clayton, you've been doing snap counts every week. Link has taken every snap at right tackle. Is that correct?
Andrew Sprague got a kneel down snap this past weekend.
That's right.
But I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's also going to be it for this portion of our show. Let's get into questions. Sound good?
Sure.
I want to shout out first. Again, we are. There is a YouTube. Chris, what is the correct phrase for where you and Skeen Show is? Is it YouTube Premium? What they're calling it?
Yeah, YouTube Premium. Yep, $4.99.
We have a couple new members here. I want to shout out M.A. Phillips, who became a member.
Thank you.
Towns Health Services, become a member. That information on how to become a YouTube Premium member for the Ballast and Skeen Show. Also, EJ Holland's recruiting show is in the description below. So would certainly encourage you guys to check that out. Thanks to the guys for the new signups. We'll start with one from YouTube. Smash the numbers. Ferris Khan says, what about this for a winning offensive formula? Michigan runs 65% of the time, and Orji completes 55% of his passes with minimal interceptions.
This team is not going to run the ball down anybody's throat the way that some of the previous teams have, right? This is not the team that beat Washington in 2021 with that formula. What did Cade McNamara throw? 9-10 passes in that game, if that, right? And for 44 yards. This team cannot do that, in my opinion. They just aren't good enough up front. And a lot of it, it's not just about the physicality, although it is at right tackle half the time. It's about assignments. And guys that look like, as Doug Skeen, my podcast partner, said, it looked like guys were thinking too much about not making mistakes and not just going out there and playing. Now, hopefully that gets rectified by the end of the year. But if you line it up and just try to ram it down their throat, any good defense is going to stuff you. And we saw it even last year. You had to have J.J. McCarthy in games against Michigan State and some of those other games where he had to throw and you had to keep them honest, or you weren't going to run the ball. They're just going to bring everybody up into the box, and you're not going to have any success, especially with this receiving core. This receiving core is a huge step down from last year's as well. So it sounds great in theory. And we hope that maybe you can do some more things in the running game and maybe they can scheme some things. But man, with this personnel, it's going to be really, really tough. But protecting the ball is number one. And damn it, they got to get better punting from Tommy Doman, because if they're playing field position game, and I think they're going to be doing a lot of that against USC, then he's got to hit those big kicks and not those stupid 28 and 29 yarders. He's better than that. He needs to be better than that.
I would ask Smash the numbers for another number. What's the third down split for Alex Orji? Because that stat line would be okay, but if you're not finishing drives and moving the ball, after getting a first down or two, then it doesn't matter all that much. I guess maybe to your point, Chris, maybe it matters for field position, but at some point you got to score.
Right.
You got to score non-Dominic Zavada points at some point, and so we would need more information there to see. But yeah, I mean, again, it sounds great in theory.
Yeah, what is the play call if you're in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 with Alex Orji? I think that's my biggest concern right now. I mean, that's last year, again, not to compare him to JJ McCarthy, but he was money in those types of situations. And I don't know. We've seen a couple 3rd and long calls with Alex Orji, and it has not been pretty. So I don't know what that looks like yet. I mean, we can get on here and speculate, pontificate based on what we think we know. None of us know what the hell to expect on Saturday. So we're going to learn the same amount of time that all you guys are as well. I'm going to go to the message board for this next one. This is from the dude 2403. He says, do you think there's a possibility the staff places too much value of highs during practice than it may have in consistency? I ask this because the people who led for the spring, summer, and most of fall camp were all passed up in the final week. It seems like more emphasis was placed on the final week or so than the consistency over the camp at positions like center and right tackle and at wide receiver to a certain extent. I've talked about this a little bit. I think there's some merit to that, but curious as to what you guys think.
At quarterback, it was really even up until the last couple of weeks, right? And then it was obvious that you had to go with Davis Warren. Otherwise, you lose any credibility with your team, right? If you're sitting there and talking about what you do in practice matters. And by the last week, Davis Warren was getting a lot of snaps, but he was getting a ton of snaps before then. So, but at the other positions, that's a great question. And because to me, Dom Jedice came out of nowhere. Remember when we, I think, reported on it about August 20th or 21st, 22nd, that he was running with the ones, according to our spotters. And we're like, how the hell does that happen when you've been hyping up Greg Crippen, even at Big Ten Media Day, when Sherrone Moore said he's ready and he's taken huge steps and he made huge strides in the spring. And then Jedice comes out of nowhere and wins that job. To the naked eye, guys. And again, Sherrone Moore said today, he said Dom has graded out better in games. Well, the eye test shows that the offense seems to be better when Crippen is out there. Maybe you're putting too much into analytics. I don't know. Or maybe I'm stupid, but because I trust these guys. These guys know a lot more football than I do. But that's a great question. And that's why I don't understand why other guys aren't getting more reps, right? Like an Andrew Gentry. When Link is as bad as he's been in pass protection, and we saw it again on Saturday, there's got to be somebody that can do the job better. There are State Street players or Main Street players, right? So give another guy a shot.
This is a great question. It's kind of hard to answer though, because we didn't see the consistency, nor did we see the highs and the lows in the practices. I mean, you get bits and pieces of what goes on, but it's really hard to say. But yeah, like even at Big Ten Media Day, when Sherrone Moore said that Greg Crippen was battling with Raheem Anderson, right? He didn't mention Dom much. Dominic Jedice played in the spring game. He was a center. They did mention him a few times. I feel like maybe we just kind of ignored it a little bit too. But and then Evan Link is a younger guy, so maybe coming into the offseason, people didn't expect it, but give him credit, I guess, for whatever he did to win the job. So it's just too hard to say. But I think they got to make some changes. I would add cornerback into that mix here as well. Amir Hall's looked better, I guess. I mean, the Texas game, neither of them were very good, but they got a lot of positions that are still kind of up for grabs heading into Big Ten play, which can be an okay thing, but these guys got to perform well.
Yeah. And somebody says, I wish they would play Jaden Davis. He is nowhere near ready. We've heard this many times, and people in the building have said the same thing. Not even close. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. I'm almost ready to just kind of put a moratorium on addressing that, because it's not going to happen.
No.
And the defense of that being, well, it can't be any worse, is not a defense, because
Sure
I think he is, has a chance to be your starting quarterback as soon as next year. I'm not ruining that kid because of how the staff decided to build its quarterback room before him. So I don't buy that yet. I want to go to this one from CT Blue, good friend of our show here, always asking good questions. He says, even though they're 1A and 1B, will Kalel Mullings finally start to soften up the defense between the tackles? And then piggybacking off that, JC here asks, do you guys think we see Mullings get the bulk of the carries on Saturday?
I hope so. I want to see him out there more. You cannot waste downs. I said this against Texas. You cannot waste downs. I love Donovan Edwards, and I think there are uses for him outside of running between the tackles and having him on the field with Kalel Mullings at the same time. I think there are packages that you can use him in there, and he should still get his carries. But Kalel Mullings had a couple of runs, guys, on Saturday that would have been 4-yard gains for Donovan Edwards or 5-yard gains that he turned into big gains because he's able to break tackles and he's stronger. And I want to see him out there flat out. I think he's the guy. So I think, again, and here's what I wrote today. I said, Kirk Campbell said that he was going to play Alex Orji whether or not he was the starting quarterback. He said this in spring because he's one of their top 11. Well, Kalel Mullings and Donovan Edwards are 2 of your top 11. So play them. Yes, they play the same position, but that doesn't mean that you can't get them on the field at the same time and do some different things with them. But I want to see Mullings get the bulk of the carries, and I think he should be the guy.
So far, he's been running the ball better, and it was very clear on Saturday as well, even though Donovan Edwards played well. So if he's running the ball better again this Saturday, I would think he gets the bulk of the carries. But this, by CT Blue's question of softening up the defense, that it might be something to that, where you run him more early on in the game, even though you want to start Donovan Edwards, but then Donovan, once the defense is softened up a little bit and he can still get carries in between, then he breaks a big one. It sounds great to me, but yeah, that there could be something to that. But Kalel Mullings, 8.9 yards after contact per rush. So it's not like the O-line was opening up, just gaping holes for him. There were a couple big holes, but I mean he was breaking tackles like crazy. Averaged over 10 yards per carry overall, but a lot of that was after contact, and he was fun to watch. Broke a couple big ones. Doesn't have that top end speed, but he's got a pretty good speed, in the open field, and can just run through contact like it, as good as anybody really in the country that I've seen.
Yeah, I think a lot of this discussion too is centered around like getting people just aren't high on Donovan Edwards for some reason, despite, and I get it, but I think you could still make the argument he's easily one of your 3 best skill players on the offensive side of the ball, and he needs to touch the ball. I think that's a guy who, whether it's the rush attempts, whether it's catching the football, he's got to touch the ball probably about 15 times a game. And at this point, Kalel Mullings probably needs to touch the ball about 20 times per game. He probably should lead the way there, but there is room for both of them. And I think Donovan Edwards, quietly, I think over the last few weeks, has started running a lot harder. We saw him break some tackles on Saturday, which was good to see. I think there is room for both of these guys in the offense. I'm not ready to just give Kalel Mullings 40 carries a game, though. Would I doubt that he could handle it? Probably. He probably could. A lot of tread on those tires still. But, I think that it's going to be a game flow thing, but I think that it's been a pretty emphatic case thus far that he should be the guy that gets, the bulk of those early carries, at least. We'll go to one from Yellow Shirt Guy, $4.99 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, no man knows the future, but what a win on Saturday will mean for this team. And that's not a question. It's actually more of just an exclamation point. But what would a win on Saturday mean for this team?
I love Yellow Shirt Guy. He's one of my favorites here, by the way. So it would mean everything, guys. To me, like I said, I think this is the pivotal game of the year. And you have to, since you lost the Texas game and you've got a Big Ten game here, you win this game, your goals are still in front of you, as unrealistic as it seems, right? This has become a tougher game than any of us expected it would be before the season. But that's why, preseason prognostications don't mean jack, because sometimes teams improve with the portal. Sometimes teams mesh more quickly than you think they're going to. We always knew that USC was going to have playmakers. Now they've got a defensive coordinator and they play a little bit of defense too. It looks like we'll find out, right? We still don't know exactly what USC is. We have an idea that they're going to be much better, and they've got a great defensive coordinator, in my opinion, but To me, it's everything. This is the game that can make you better, can make everybody feel so much better about themselves, get the confidence. If your quarterback plays well, if you find your quarterback, for example, Alex Orji comes out and has a great game, then you're feeling much better about this team. But it's going to take a great defensive effort too. And if they come out with that crap that they showed against Texas, they're going to get carved up. So this is a big week for Wink Martindale.
Every play means everything this weekend. I mean, as Chase Winovich said, the great Chase Winovich back in 2018 after they beat Michigan State, he said, last week was for the boys. This week is for our season. And it's for the season this weekend because the way they lost to Texas, if they would have lost by one, I think, one, we would think that, wow, team is pretty damn good. But two, on the resume, it wouldn't look as bad. So 2 losses, you got not much of a margin for error here. So this is for the season on September 21st to keep it alive, but you still have stuff to play for going forward. But in terms of playoff, I mean, you're in a really rough spot if you lose, and you're in a really good spot, as good as you can be in with a loss on your resume in late September, if you win this game. So it's absolutely massive. And it doesn't feel like it's a Big Ten game, especially because it is the opener, because it just feels like an extension of, all right, Fresno State, Texas, which is kind of crazy that they played Texas, Arkansas State, USC. Why not? They used to play 4 non-conference games. So it would be a nice little welcome to the Big Ten for USC. And but it's absolutely massive.
And it's not just about playoff to me. It's about, I think the wheels could come off the wagon, guys. If they get beat handily on Saturday, then I think it could get pretty ugly. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah, it kind of feels like winning could be the glue that keeps this together. And plant a flag that gives you a chance to build on something. We haven't really seen that yet. So, there was another question there from Jacob Sherba about what we would want to see. I think you guys more or less just answered it. I would sum it up by saying, give yourself some kind of signature early Sherrone Moore era win that you could say, you know what, this program is in good hands. They're headed back in the right direction. There's always going to be a drop off, but there's steady hands on the wheel right now. I think that's all you could really ask for. Last one here from Day for $5. It says, got here late. What does the loss do to this team mentally? Do they fall apart or rally together? I think we just sort of talked about that.
We did. Yeah. I think the wheels fall off the wagon. I don't see the leadership. I don't see the desire that we've seen the last 3 years, the chemistry. Sherrone Moore was the continuity hire if he was surrounded by all the other guys still here and that these kids had a familiarity with, and those guys aren't here. So it will be one hell of a coaching job if they lose this game and Sherrone Moore rights the ship. That's something that Lloyd Carr teams always did really well. If they got beat early in the year, had some devastating losses, he would say, okay, we're going to continue and we're going to finish this season strong. And they usually did. So it would be a real test of Sherrone Moore's early career here if they were to lose this football game.
Yeah, I to predict that is way too early. I would say that teams with talent can still win, some pretty big games down the line, even if they had a disappointing loss. I mean, just look at what Kentucky nearly did last week after the debacle against South Carolina. So this team's still going to have a lot of talent. They're probably going to get better throughout the year. So a loss would put you in a pretty dire situation in terms of resume and all this. I guess you could win the Big Ten still and get the automatic bid, but it'll still be a problem for some teams, I think. So, but that hypothetical, let's talk about that after Saturday, because they also have a hell of a shot to win.
That's right. Well, top of the hour is here. We're going to close it out. A couple quick comments. Don't need to respond to them. One from JC who says, John Borton is 200 years old, a mythical creature. And Nick for $1.99 says, the coaching staff gaslit us all off season. I don't believe that, but whatever. It is what it is. Thanks for the comment. Thank you guys for watching. You can, we have, I believe it's another flash sale week at the Wolverine, an annual subscription celebrating USC week for 50% off. We'll drop all of that info in the description below. Be sure to subscribe, like this video for more content. We'll be back Thursday to break down this game against USC. For Chris Ballas, for Clayton Safey, I'm Anthony Broom. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again on Thursday.